I'm gonna try to get through this without crying because I haven't cried yet, so we'll see how this goes. Well, what's up, Team Internet? Thanks for coming back to hang out with me this week. If you've never hung out with me before, my name is Eva, and this is the first video of 2019, and it's only 3 weeks late. What a surprise. No, but seriously, please watch this whole video, because aside from the ridiculousness of this video, for those of you who are regulars to my channel, there are 2 little bits of information at the end of this video that do not pertain to the content of this video. Anyway, moving on. I have been on a bit of a hiatus even before the content of this video, but to cut to the chase, it's a miracle that I'm even here to record this video. Because if you'll notice from the lighting, I have a big scar right here that goes down much further. I also have a scar over here and in my neck and 3 more down here that you can kind of see if you look. But that is because I had an aortic aneurysm and had to be sent to emergency open heart surgery, which is insane because through my entire life, the one thing that has always terrified me the most is having to get a surgery. And then it was thrust upon me because my aorta was barely attached to my heart and I was internally bleeding and on the precipice of death. So yeah, aside from starting 2018 with 3 car accidents, I ended it with emergency open heart surgery, so I can't imagine how 2019 could possibly be any worse. So if you're a family or friend who's watching this because I've posted it like on social media and you found it, or you're just one of my YouTube followers who's like, holy shit, how the fuck did I not know about this? Here's the story. To clear it up, because I know you'll ask, there were absolutely 0 warning signs. You can ask my coworkers because I was at work that morning. I was acting completely normal, no chest pain, no weirdness, no nothing. There were 0 warning signs that anything was wrong with me. So I got up that morning, it was a Sunday, it was the day before Christmas Eve, and I went to work. There was I sell cars, for those of you who are somehow unaware of this, and there were some customers on the lot, so I went to greet the customers. It turned out that they were customers of one of my fellow salespeople. So I turned around to go inside and alert said salesperson. And all of a sudden, I didn't feel it, but I heard this loud popping sound. And like my entire body just felt like white noise, like when your TV is like fuzzing out. And I kind of just like couldn't grasp what was happening. I wasn't in pain, it was like that white noise sensation, and I could hear the customer behind me saying, hey, are you okay? And I couldn't respond to them, and then I took a deep breath and I just leaned over and put my hands on my knees, and they asked me again, and I couldn't respond. I just couldn't get a grasp of like what sensation I was feeling. And at that point, I lost consciousness. I don't know what was happening. Apparently, according to the customer, at that point I fell to the ground and was seizing for about 3 minutes is what she said, because when I came to, I was very conscious of what was happening for the rest of everything. I looked up, my coworkers were above me, the customers were above me, and they were trying to make sure I was comfortable, that I was okay. They told me that the ambulance was on the way. I kept trying to get up and they were telling me not to move. I very quickly felt like I was going to vomit. I rolled over. I didn't, but they were all very respectful of me, very kind. The ambulance got there. They asked me if I could stand up. I could not. That's when I realized, I'm not quite sure how I was able to roll over when I thought I needed to vomit. But that was when I realized I really could not move, because the paramedics asked me if I could stand and I said no. They asked me if I could sit up to stand so they could help me get up and I said no. I realized I couldn't move. Like, I wasn't paralyzed, but I had 0 physical strength to move my body. So they lifted me onto the stretcher, got me into the ambulance, and that's when the pain hit me. I was almost screaming, like I was moaning in so much pain. I didn't know what was wrong. They were asking me, and I explained to the the best of my ability what was wrong. They were taking my vitals and they were very bad. The details of that information is a little fuzzy because I was just in such agonizing pain. Luckily for me, the emergency room was literally around the corner from my job. I get to the emergency room, they get me in right away. They send me for x-rays. The x-rays don't show that anything was wrong. Then for some reason, I'm really not sure what the holdup was. There was a rather long delay between me getting the x-ray and me getting the CT scan, which would show like everything else besides just the bones, which in my case turned out to be some pretty critical time span going on. Somehow they got a hold of my mom, who was at work, and I don't know how they did it because I was not okay enough to go through my phone, give them her work number, anything like that. At this point, they have tried to give me some low-end type of pain medications because, you know, with all of the opioid epidemics and everything, I do understand that to a degree a lot of hospitals' hands are tied when it comes to pain medications and things like that. But given the information that we weren't aware of yet and my condition, these medications were not doing anything, and at this point I was basically screaming bloody murder at the top of my lungs in agonizing pain, and I was still not in for the CT scan. And finally my mom, who had arrived at this point, was just so fed up with the delay and the agony that I was in, because there were tons and tons of nurses and nurse practitioners and doctors running around my room because I was clearly in dire distress. She just screamed at the top of her lungs, "Is my daughter having a fucking heart attack?" And they got moving. I went straight to the CT scan. That was an experience because I could not get on the bed on my own. I mean, I just started finally to be able to start to put some of my piercings back in, but good Lord, was it a bitch and a half to get them out to get through that damn machine because I couldn't fucking move. So that alone was a process that delayed everything. So I come back, and then all of a sudden the head person who had kind of been talking to me comes in, and I'm not sure if she just wasn't really aware of how surgeries worked or if she was trying to downplay it to not distress me more, but she did say that I was in a very critical situation. I needed to be life flighted to the hospital's main campus immediately, that I had a ruptured aorta because I had an aortic aneurysm and I was bleeding internally, and that my aorta was almost detached from my heart, and that I had to get open heart surgery immediately, and that it should only take about an hour. But I was in very critical condition. The helicopter was on the way. And I was just like so in shock that I had zero response. I just like looked at my mother and I'm just like, am I in real life right now? Like, what the fuck is happening? I think she kind of experienced a bit of the same thing because we were both kind of giving each other the same deer in the headlights look. Like, oh my God, like, what? So when they realized like how entirely severe the situation was, they really did try to help comfort me and get me out of pain as much as possible. It really didn't help, but I appreciated, wow, I'm actually getting a little bit emotional. This is a first. I have had zero emotions about the entire experience until now. They did try to comfort me as much as possible. So then the copter got there, which was a very interesting experience because I had literally never been in a helicopter in my life, but hello, if you're about to die, you get to go in a helicopter. So I flew from Bedford to downtown Cleveland in a helicopter, and then literally the second I was off the helicopter, I was immediately taken to the surgery room where all of a sudden I found out, oh, this could take 10 to 12 hours. That was my response. That's still my response. My mom immediately started asking a lot of questions as I was still just kind of sitting there like, And so then they got me into the room immediately. That was probably one of the most overwhelming 2 seconds of my life, because the second that I got into that room, I couldn't even count the amount of people that were in that surgery room, but like at minimum 12 bodies started touching me, and it was very overwhelming. But then they were trying to all distract me at once so that I kind of didn't have the chance to start freaking out about whatever I was seeing. So they all started like asking me about my job and this and this and that. And then they all basically were pretending like they wanted to buy a car from me, but there was like 12 people doing it at once. And then the next thing I know, I was waking up. And I was just like, are we done? And then I realized I can't talk. Why can't I talk? This was a heart surgery. And then I realized that there was this big ass fucking tube in my throat. And aside from like the healing pains, which like, Jesus Christ, it's gonna be so hard to explain that part when I get to it. This tube was probably the second worst part of this entire experience, because they had explained beforehand that like they were gonna keep me under the anesthesia and whatever knocks you out a little bit longer to make sure that I was like fully awake before they started to take the tube out of my throat. And like I was awake as fuck, and like I'm trying to get them to know, like, take this fucking thing out of my throat, because like I tried to talk and obviously nothing's coming out, and I just feel this thing, and like it felt like there was some kind of like string attached, and they're like, what's happening? Like I can hear them talking. And so then I'm like going like this, like indicating, get this fucking thing out, and they're like, what does that mean? Like, get this anyway, you get it. They finally get it out, and I'm just like, Okay, anyway, I have to take a deep breath after that one. So I will say, I was confidently coherent through pretty much the whole process. That first day out of surgery though, which was Christmas Eve, was very blurry. I remember bits and pieces, but a lot of it is hard to remember because they had me very drugged up with pain medications and all types of things. I mean, it's the first day out of surgery. Like, what do you expect? My mom filled in a lot of gaps for me after the fact that I really just kind of was like, wait, that was a thing? This happened? Oh, okay. One of the biggest surprises about my hospital stay is that after having gone through an aortic aneurysm that was not like no preparation and an emergency open heart surgery, I was only there for 6 days before I was sent home. But I will say, the treatment I received while I was there was good. I had a lot of love and support. People visited me a lot. Many of my coworkers came, many of my friends came, many of my family came. I felt very supported and loved while I was there. I think the most ridiculous thing that happened, and is one of the only things I have zero recollection of and was informed about by my dear friend Corey after the fact, is that somehow in the midst of all this chaos, somewhere in between being told I was gonna get life flighted because I was essentially about to die and actually getting on the helicopter, I had the damn sense to get on Facebook and post a status that I was in critical condition and getting life flighted. And I did not find this out until after I was home from the hospital and went to visit some friends, and I had to like go back and fact check Facebook. Here's a photo. So guys, if I'm gonna die, you're gonna know about it. Yeah. There have been tons of follow-up doctor's appointments. The progress is not at all what I have expected it to be since then. Like, I know I look very nice and put together right now, but this took almost 4 hours of work to get to this point because movement and agility, cardio, anything like that, it's not easy. The pain is a lot. It's a lot. It also has changed because when I first came home, a lot of the pain was like muscle tissue and nerves and things like that. And in the last week or so, I can feel my bones healing. And that is such a strange strange sensation, and especially because like there's literal wires holding my sternum together and my bone is healing around it. I constantly feel and hear my heart beating because there's an artificial thing inside of it wrapped in mesh to help it regrow, and like my body is just aware that there's a foreign object there that it's getting used to, so I just feel and hear it all the time, and it's a lot to get used to. And like the pain is just such a prevalent thing that it's always in the forefront of like everything that I do. It limits every single choice and action that I make, so like it's very controlling of my life. I am making progress though, it's just a lot slower than I was anticipating. Because like I've had injuries and illnesses before, but nothing I have been through could possibly have prepared me for this. It's a lot more than what I was expecting at all. The one thing that I want to say before I close this video is, number one, the biggest change to my channel is that I'm no longer going to have 2 channels. I'm going to keep my second channel open for like archive of footage, but everything that I used to do on my second channel is all going to happen on my main channel as well. I'm just going to consolidate everything into one channel. The second thing, which is more important, tomorrow I am going to post, literally 2 days before this happened, I had filmed a video that was going to release on my main channel on Christmas Eve, which was the day I came out of surgery. So I just want to show you how normal I was not even 2 days before this all happened, just so that you can really see how non-signs there were that anything was wrong at all. And sorry for the sudden image change. My freaking battery died like 5 seconds before the video was over, but whatever. I am hoping to be much more consistent with videos this year because thankfully, due to this ridiculously terrifying experience, I had a very sudden perspective change on life. With that being said, like this video, give it a thumbs up. Also subscribe because you're awesome like that. Your friends are awesome too, so be sure to share it with them. Turn on that notification bell and leave comments in the comments down below. Love you, mean it.